My name is Noah. I'm 32, and for most of my life, I've known how to stay silent at family gatherings. Growing up in a home where love was a contest and my siblings were always the winners, I learned to keep my thoughts to myself. Praise, criticism, pain, I swallowed it all and chewed quietly. That's how I lived until my 32nd birthday dinner. It was a warm Saturday evening, the kind that made the garden shimmer under fairy lights and inexpensive wine. My mother insisted on hosting, as she always did, claiming birthdays were for family, not extravagance. That meant we were eating slightly overcooked roast chicken with tough, chewy skin and drinking generic cola in the same garden where my sister Emma had a $10,000 engagement party 3 years ago. I didn't complain. I never do. I showed up early, brought a bottle of whiskey no one would touch, and offered to set up the folding chairs, though they always acted like I hadn't spoken. The whole family was there. Mom, Dad, Emma, her fiancé Caleb, who looked like he stepped out of a corporate headshot, Uncle Tom, Aunt Rachel, their 2 kids who always smelled faintly of crayons, and Grandpa, who hadn't remembered my name in 5 years but still called me the quiet one. Everyone was loud, a little drunk, and talking over each other by the time we sat down. I was crammed between the ice bucket full of drinks and the back of my cousin's chair, my knees brushing the table's edge. Emma, as always, had the prime spot next to Dad, with her perfect posture, perfect smile, perfect everything. I was slicing into the chicken, its edges dry and curling, when Dad raised his glass. His voice boomed with that forced warmth he used for toasts. To the one child who's really made us proud. Everyone laughed, because of course they knew who he meant. They always did. He didn't say her name, but his eyes locked on Emma, and she blushed, playing the humble role she'd perfected for years. Mom clinked her glass and added, "Some people are just born to shine." The table erupted in laughter again. Caleb let out a smug chuckle, like he was proud to be engaged to the family's star. I just stared at my plate, not because it hurt. I'd grown numb to their favoritism years ago. This was the family dynamic. Emma, the golden child, me, the afterthought. I'd stopped trying to compete long ago, but something about that night felt different. Not just their words, but the way they rang out, as if I wasn't even there, as if my chair was already empty of anything they'd ever hoped for me to be. I reached for my water, took a slow sip, and let the silence stretch just long enough. Then I said it. Funny, the DNA test tells a different story. It wasn't loud or angry, just calm, like I was noting the humidity in the air. But it was enough. Emma's laugh froze mid-breath. Her smile cracked like thin ice. The garden went quiet, like someone had hit a mute button. Dad's knife hit his plate with a sharp clink and stayed there. Caleb looked like he'd just been told his startup failed. Aunt Rachel coughed into her napkin, probably out of instinct. Even Grandpa looked up, his cloudy eyes narrowing. I didn't meet their gazes, just took another bite of chicken, chewing slowly as if I hadn't just dropped a bomb on the table. You might wonder why I chose that moment. I didn't plan it. I didn't wake up that morning thinking, "Tonight I'll turn the family upside down." It was years of small, cuts backhanded compliments, Christmas gifts where Emma got a trip to Paris and I got a scarf, Dad saying, "That's just Noah." Every time I dared to show disappointment, Mom calling Emma her miracle after years of trying for a child, while I was just the surprise they loved anyway. I stayed loyal, called every weekend, sent birthday cards, paid for their home repairs, even helped Emma plan her engagement party, though she never thanked me. I thought if I stayed useful, they'd eventually see me. But last month, while sorting through Dad's old papers at his request to digitize them, I found something that changed everything. Tucked in a folder labeled miscellaneous, behind old tax forms, was a DNA test. It was Emma's. Marked inconclusive, for paternity, with a handwritten note about non-biological fatherhood. I sat there on the study floor staring at it, my heart pounding. My father, who'd made her his pride and joy, wasn't her biological father. I scanned the document, saved it to my laptop, and buried it in a folder, telling myself it wasn't my place to stir up trouble. I told myself maybe they had reasons for keeping it secret, that it wasn't my business to expose their lies. But that night, their laughter, their casual dismissal of me on my own birthday, it snapped something inside me. After I spoke, the silence grew thick, heavy, wrapping the table like a fog. Emma tried to speak, her voice catching, but nothing came out. Dad's face turned the color of the wine he refused to drink. Mom stared at me like I'd just kicked a puppy. "What are you talking about, Noah?" she asked, her voice trembling. "That's not funny." "I'm not joking," I said, still calm, almost too calm. "But let's enjoy dinner. It's my birthday, after all." That was the last thing I said that night. I let the silence do the rest. The dinner crawled by, tense and wordless. Emma kept glancing at Dad, who wouldn't meet her eyes. Mom fiddled with her napkin, her lips quivering like she knew something, or at least suspected it. After dessert, which I didn't touch, I stood, thanked everyone for coming, and left before they even opened the gifts. I took nothing with me but my phone and keys. That was 4 days ago. Since then, I've had 2 missed calls from Mom, 1 from Emma, and nothing from Dad. But the DNA test wasn't the only thing I found, and if they think one sentence at dinner was the end of it, they're not ready for what's coming. The morning after the dinner, my phone buzzed relentlessly on my nightstand texts, voicemails, most from Mom and Emma, one from Aunt Rachel that just said, "What did you do?" I ignored them all, made a pot of tea, and sat by the window, opening my laptop. The DNA test was just the beginning. While sorting Dad's files last month, I'd found a small folder labeled Private, hidden beneath a stack of old receipts. Inside were hospital bills, a notarized confidentiality agreement, and a court record that had no business being in our home. It took hours to piece it together, the test, the agreement, the dates, but once I did, it all made sense. Emma wasn't just Dad's stepchild. She was the result of an affair. Letters from a man named Daniel Carter, her biological father, who lived 1 town over, showed he'd been in contact with Mom for a few years after Emma's birth. He agreed to terminate his parental rights when Dad adopted her, with a clause that it all stay secret for the family's emotional well-being. One letter, dated a year after I was born, hit me hard. "I hope Noah doesn't grow up feeling like an outsider in his own home." That line burned, because that's exactly what I'd felt my entire life, a stranger in my own family. I wasn't angry when I found it, not at first. I was numb. It explained too much why Dad kept Emma so close, like he was afraid she'd vanish, why he pushed me away with a quiet coldness, why Mom always seemed tense when they argued, why I was the afterthought, the accident, the reminder of their mistakes. For weeks I said nothing, carrying the secret like a weight. Then came the birthday dinner, and their laughter forced my hand. By the 3rd day after the dinner, Mom's texts were frantic. "Please, Noah, we didn't mean it like that. You misunderstood your father." I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and started drafting an email. No drama, no accusations, just the fact scans of the DNA test, Daniel's letters, the adoption papers, and a single line. I deserve the truth, not a family built on lies. I waited until Sunday brunch, their sacred weekly ritual where everyone showed up no matter what, and sent it at 11:15, imagining Mom's phone buzzing on the table, Dad reaching for his glasses, Emma staring at the subject line. "The truth you hid from me." It was opened in under 2 minutes. Then, nothing. 2 days of complete silence, which was somehow worse than chaos. On Wednesday evening, the doorbell rang. It was Dad, holding a folder, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. His shoulders hunched, like the weight of the truth had finally caught up. "Why'd you do it?" he asked, barely above a whisper. I stepped aside and let him in. He sat at my kitchen table, the same one we'd eaten at 100 times, but this time he looked fragile, rattled. "Everything you found, you weren't supposed to," he said. But I guess it was only a matter of time. I didn't speak, just let him talk. And he did, slowly, haltingly. He told me about Mom's affair during a rough patch in their marriage, how she came back months later, pregnant, wanting to make things work. He agreed, but only if the baby Emma would be his, legally and emotionally. He said he loved her, even if she wasn't his by blood, and I believed him. But then he said something that made my breath catch. You were the only thing I was ever sure about, Noah. I blinked, stunned. What? He looked at me, his eyes tired and glassy. I didn't push you away because I didn't love you. I pushed you away because I was ashamed of myself, for resenting the wrong child, for pretending so well I forgot it was a lie. I thought giving Emma everything would erase what I felt, but it just pushed you further away, and I didn't know how to fix it. He slid the folder toward me. Inside were letters he'd written to me over the years. Never sent birthday cards, notes, journal entries. I scanned one, dated my 21st birthday. I'm proud of him, even if I can't say it out loud. I am. Then he said, I don't expect you to forgive us, but I wanted you to know I always saw you, even when I didn't act like it. He paused at the door before leaving. When you're ready, we're here, he said. Then he was gone. I sat there, not vindicated, not satisfied, just exhausted. Emma texted later that night, We need to talk. I didn't reply right away. Her words felt hollow, no apology, just like always. She'd never said sorry not for taking the bigger bedroom when we were kids, not for calling me the family's charity case loud enough for me to hear, not for convincing Mom to cancel the loan I needed after college. She was always the perfect daughter in public, but behind closed doors, she wielded her place in the family like a weapon, sharp and precise. When I finally texted back tomorrow, my place, noon I, wasn't doing it for her or for closure. I was doing it because I was tired of letting them write my story. She showed up exactly on time, hair perfect, blazer crisp, like she was attending a board meeting, not unraveling a lifetime of lies. Nice apartment, she said, glancing around. I didn't invite you to compliment my furniture, I replied. Her smile twitched. Right, she said, softer now. I'm confused, Noah, and hurt. Why'd you say it like that, in front of everyone? I laughed, dry and bitter. Why? You've been their princess for 32 years while I was the spare. I said one true thing, and suddenly you're hurt? She crossed her arms, defensive. I didn't know, she said, her voice small. Not until you spoke. I watched her, noticing the careful way she chose her words. What do you want from me? I asked. Forgiveness? An apology for ruining your perfect image? I want to fix this, she said too quickly. Then she hesitated, reached into her purse, and pulled out an envelope, plain and unmarked. I found this in Mom's closet the night after the dinner, she said. I wasn't looking for it, just trying to understand. I took it. Inside was a bank transfer from 10 years AGA $25,000 to Daniel Carter. On the back, in faint ink, if he finds out, say it was for college. Don't let him think she's not his sister. My stomach dropped. Blackmail? I asked. I don't know, she whispered. But there's more. She looked scared now, her composure cracking. What if I'm not their kid either? That hit me, because I'd found something else in Dad's Felessa second DNA test, with my name on it, and a note from Mom, still unopened. I walked to my office, pulled it from the locked drawer, and brought it back. This is mine, I said. I haven't looked yet. Her eyes widened. Do you want to? She asked. My hands moved before I could answer, peeling open the envelope. Inside was a single sheet, Mom's looping handwriting. Noah, if you read this, I hope you'll forgive me. You're not your father's son. There was someone before him, a mistake I never made peace with. I let him believe you were his. You were never unloved, always my anchor. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to tell you sooner. You deserve the truth. I read it twice, the words blurring. Emma sat frozen, her mouth slightly open. So, neither of us are his, she said, her voice cracking. I nodded. They built a lie so big it collapsed under its own weight. What now? She asked. I don't know, I said, standing and walking to the window, watching a couple pass by outside, laughing over something small. I envied their simplicity. I'm not going back, I said. To the house? She asked. To them, I said, turning to face her. She stood slowly. I know I wasn't a good sister, she said. I let them make me their favorite. But maybe we can start over, just us, without their rules. I didn't answer right away. Part of me wanted that a new start, but not yet. The next day, I drove to the family house. I didn't knock, just used my key. Mom was in the dining room, staring at her coffee, looking like she'd been expecting me. I held up her letter. I know everything, I said. Both truths. She nodded, tears spilling. You're not his, she said. Neither is Emma. Daniel was her father. You had 2 kids. 2 lies, I said. You made us play roles in your perfect family, but you didn't hold us together. You held us hostage. She sobbed. I loved you both, but you didn't trust us to love you back, I said. I handed her 2 copies of the DNA test zone for her, one for Dad. Live with the truth now. I walked out, not looking back. That was 2 months ago. Emma and I talk now, not like siblings exactly, but like 2 people rebuilding something fragile from the ruins. She's pulled away from Mom and Dad, though I know she still aches for their approval. I don't blame her. That kind of conditioning runs deep. I moved to a new town, started a new job, got a small apartment with a view of the river. It's not about escaping the past, it's about living outside its shadow. When people ask about my family, I say, it's complicated. But I've made peace with it. Blood doesn't make a home. Truth does. After 32 years of silence, I finally spoke mine. The journey to this point wasn't easy. I think about the years I spent trying to earn a place at that table, the countless times I bit my tongue, the moments I let their words slide because I thought that's what family meant: enduring, staying, no matter how much it hurt. But finding those documents, seeing the truth in black and white, it shifted something fundamental. It wasn't just about Emma or me or who our fathers were. It was about the lies they built our lives on, the roles they forced us into without ever asking if we wanted them. Emma's reached out a few times since that day at my apartment. Her texts are cautious, like she's testing the waters, trying to figure out what we are to each other now. Last week, she called, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. She told me she'd been digging through more of Mom's old papers, trying to understand why they kept so much from us. She found a photo of Mom and Daniel Carter, taken years before either of us were born, both of them smiling like the world was theirs. It shook her, she said, to see Mom so happy with someone else, someone who wasn't Dad. I didn't know what to say, so I just listened. That's new for us, listening to each other without the weight of Mom and Dad's expectations hanging over us. I don't know if we'll ever be close. Not the way siblings are in movies, but there's something honest in our conversations now, something real. Dad hasn't reached out since he came to my apartment, and I'm not sure he will. I think he's carrying his own guilt, his own version of the story he's not ready to face. Mom sends texts every few weeks, short and careful, like she's afraid of saying too much. I haven't replied. Not because I hate her, but because I'm not ready to let her back in. Maybe one day, but not yet. The new town feels like a fresh start, though I didn't move to run away. I walk by the river most evenings, watching the water catch the light, and it feels like enough for now. My job keeps me busy developing software for a small startup, something I've always wanted to try. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. Sometimes, I think about that birthday dinner, the moment I spoke up, the way the air changed. It wasn't just about the DNA test or the secrets. It was about refusing to be invisible anymore. I don't know what the future holds for me and Emma, or me and the rest of the family. Maybe we'll find a way to rebuild, or maybe we'll just keep this fragile truce, 2 people who survived the same lie. Either way, I'm done living for their approval. I'm writing my own story now, and for the first time, it feels like it belongs to me.